Hello. Today I've been fortunate enough to be tasting with Pierre Fabre, who's the part owner and winemaker of Château Mont-Redon, who are a large and well-established producer of Chateauneuf du Pape in the southern Rhône region of France, and this is their Chateauneuf du Pape Red from 2018. As a site, they have a large contiguous area of vineyards that has old vines on them. Evidently the majority of their vines were planted in the 1930s and 50s, giving fantastic concentration and low yields of fruit. But also this large area of vines covers all the terroirs of Chateauneuf du Pape, so they have a large plateau of stony soils. They also have some calcareous soils, and they have some free draining sandy soils, enabling them with such a large area of vines and a diversity of soils to produce quite consistent quality and style from year to year, because the differing styles changing depending on the weather conditions, you can blend to ameliorate that to an extent. This particular wine is principally Grenache, about 60%, with about 30% of Syrah, the balance being Mourvedon, with tiny amounts of Carignan. Carignan left as whole bunches, and a few small amounts of white varieties, some of which will have been interplanted with the reds, so we're all picked together and they're co-fermented. The wine ages about 50% in oak, about 50% in tank, and of that oak, about 12% of the total wine ages in new oak, but most of it is older oak. So they're not trying to get a strong oak flavour influence, it's much more trying to allow oxygen to soften the tannins and to smooth the wine out and to make it more harmonious. So let's have a look at the wine, shall we? First of all, the colour. The colour's deep, it's dark, it's virtually opaque, it's a ruby red, almost a sort of a black red. The wine's 15% alcohol, so as I swirl it, I'm expecting to see, and yes, there they are, tears of wine running down the glass. Perhaps I was expecting a little more of that, but nonetheless, they're there. Let's have a look at the aromas. There's a combination there of red fruit, which is quite apparent, but also there's a meatiness that then opens to show sort of spicy, peppery notes. In general, though, the fruit is actually quite in on itself. It's restrained. It's a little bit brooding. But as I'm smelling, there's a certain depth, a sort of almost a licoricey core of fruit in there as well. So I'm sure there's plenty in there that will open up. So let's have a taste. The wine is initially mouth-filling. There's plenty of red fruit. It's fresh, it's juicy, but then beautifully integrated in that, and that is the style of the wines from this particular chateau. There's this spicy, gripping tannic structure, and it's not just the tannins are in the mid palate, they're running throughout the whole wine, and they're really so nicely integrated in that it's hard to tell whether it's drying astringent tannin or pepperiness that's coming through. And there's, again, the finish has a savoury note, whereas you've got sort of juicy red fruit to begin with. The finish is more savoury and spicy, and that's lingering, so the spice is lingering on the finish. That alcohol that I was talking about, 15%, and yet it's not, it doesn't make the finish seem hot or heavy. In fact, if anything, I'd suggest that this was, medium to full-bodied. It's not a huge wine. It's certainly got presence, and those tannins give it presence. I suspect that given its structure, given the freshness of the fruit there, that given 4 or 5 years, this wine will open out, the fruit will show more, and will come into balance with those spicy notes, and this will be quite a spectacular wine. I mean, it's very enjoyable now, but I would suggest it probably needs at least 3 years before drinking up for anything other than interest to see how it's developing. So I hope you found this interesting. Thank you very much for joining us. If you've enjoyed the video, please feel free to like and share, and do join us again. Bye now.